Step 1 is create the box. That's done. Step 2 is we're going to put ax squared in the upper left-hand corner and c in the lower right-hand corner. So I'm going to write the standard form of a quadratic above the function we're given just to remind me where everything is. This is already in standard form. So ax squared is the x term. So x squared, and then our c is our -2. Step 3 is we're going to figure out what multiplies to ax squared and c, but adds to the middle term b. So what multiplies to ax squared times c, ax squared times c, but adds to b, right? So we want to multiply these two for the first part, and then we want to figure out what multiples add together to give us the middle term. So when we multiply ax squared times c, which is x squared times -2, that's going to give us -2x squared. So we want to know what are the multiples of -2 that will add up to, our b term is -1x, so -1x. So what multiplies to -2 and x squared, but adds up to -1x? Well, we know x and x are involved, right? And the only factors of 2 are just 2 and 1, so that's all we have to work with. So I know that 2 minus 1 will give me 1, and that's really close to what we need. So let's figure out which one should be positive and which one should be negative so that the end result is -1. Well, I know that 2 minus 1 is +1. So that's not going to work. So 1 minus 2, if I just flip them around, that gives me -1. So we know that our 1 should be positive and our 2 should be negative. So we'll put 1x and -2x. 1 and -2. And sure enough, 1x times -2x is -2x squared. 1 times -2 is -2. X times x is x squared. Great. 1x plus -2x is -1x. So now we get to take these terms and put them into the box, and it doesn't matter where you put them. So I'll put -2x here and 1x here. So step 6, factor out the greatest common factor from the rows and the columns. So the greatest common factor for x squared and 1x, well, I can pull an x out. The greatest common factor for -2x and -2. Can't pull an x out because this doesn't have an x, but -2 is the biggest number that goes into -2 and -2. So we can pull a -2 out. Now we're going to look at the rows. What's the greatest common factor of x squared and -2x? Again, we can't pull out a number because this has a 1 and this has a -2. You could pull out 1, but we don't have to in this case because x squared and x, if there's 2 x's and 1 x, we can pull out at least 1 from that pairing. And then the bottom row, 1x and -2. We can't pull an x out because this has x, this doesn't. We can't pull out a 2 because 2 doesn't go into 1, right? So these numbers don't have anything in common besides, well, 1, right? 1 and 2 have, 2 has a factor of 2 and 1 has a factor of 1. So the only number they have in common is 1. So that's the number that we're going to pull out. And remember, we want to pull out a positive one because this is positive and negative, so it's one of each. And over here, we pulled out a -2 because they're both negative. So now we get to put this in factored form, x minus 2, x plus 1. And therefore, one of our zeros is +2, 0. And then the other 0 is -1, 0. And remember, that's because 2 minus 2 would give us 0, right? When we set it up, x minus 2 equals 0. 2 minus 2 gives us 0. Or you could add 2 to both sides and solve. And then over here, if we set this equal to 0, x plus 1, we would subtract 1 on both sides, or you could think, what plus 1 gives me 0? But both answers will be -1.